Hello guys, my name's Noah Fitzgerald, and today I am here with a brand new vehicle for you, and that is the 2024 Alpina XB7. Now the Alpina XB7 is Alpina's, or BMW's rather, full-size SUV that's meant to compete with the likes of other German full-size crossovers. Now, what makes this XB7 special is that it is made by a BMW tuning company called Alpina to extract extra power and add extra luxuries. Now, powering this XB7 is BMW's very own 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 with the engine designation S65, meaning this is the 4.4-liter twin-turbo taken straight from the M cars. In this application, it's making 630 horsepower, that is up 107 horsepower from the 2022 model year, and it makes 590 pound-feet of torque, which again is a bump over the 2022 model year. All of this power is sent through BMW's 8-speed automatic transmission and put to the ground via also BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system. All of this is combined to make a 0 to 60 time of 3.9 seconds. Now, let me just put that in a bit of a perspective. 3.9 seconds is a sports car territory. That's numbers you see from Ferraris, numbers you see from C7 Corvettes. This is a 3-row family hauler that is keeping up with sports cars in 0 to 60 times. That is absolutely astonishing. Now that is also on your way up to a unelectronically limited 180 miles an hour. That makes this vehicle the fastest 3-row SUV on the market today. There's only one car that contests it, and that is the Dodge Durango Hellcat, but that is not anywhere in the same segment as this vehicle. Altogether, the XB7 powertrain-wise is set up for an amazing experience. It is handled like a beast. For the 2023 model year, which is whenever this BMW X7 or XB7 was facelifted, it added some extra updates, such as active anti-roll bars, which really made you feel more put in the corners. It also added air suspension for all 4 corners, so you could really soak up the bumps, and you really got a more active feel from your car instead of just a lumbering 3-row crossover. This handles. It handles, and it has the power to handle. So from a powertrain standpoint, the XB7 has it down. From a power perspective, the XB7 does have it down. But how about the outside looks of this XB7? As I mentioned, for the 2023 model year, the X7 and the XB7 alike got a mid-cycle refresh, or a lifestyle change, as BMW would like to call it. And it's up to really the buyer to decide if they like that new style. It is a very controversial design. It takes its design straight from the new 7 Series, which again is a very controversial vehicle. I happen to like the 7 Series, but I am a bit iffy on the new X7 platform. I think the car pulls it off, but I'm not so sure about the SUV. But that's only from a front perspective. Now, if you are looking at the front perspective, you do see full LED headlights with LED DRLs and headlights. And turn signals. It does feature BMW's new split design, where you have the DRLs on top and the LED projector headlights on bottom. I'm not so much of a fan of this LED, the split design. Headlights, I wish it would phase out soon. I really think there's something special about designing a headlight housing all as one instead of getting lazy. I, from a headlight perspective, prefer the 2022 models, or model years from that generation, the first generation of X7. Now, if you get to the grille, you see that you do get the ginormous kidney grills. Again, yet another thing on a BMW styling point that is very controversial. I think that the last generation X7 pulled it off fine. It was a big grille, but it was also their biggest vehicle that they made. But they made it bigger for the 2023 and 2024 models, And I think that was a mistake. I think it was big enough the last time. I see no reason to make it bigger. And now the nostrils are a bit too large. Now, in those nostrils, you will see that there are active grille shutters, and yet another thing to try to make this car have better fuel economy. Now, on the Alpina, they couldn't have just kept it stock. They had to add new features, and they did so with the bumper design. The bumper design is heavy. Now you see that you do have air intakes on the bottom to let air go to those brakes, so that way you can cool down the brakes and stop this ginormous SUV. Now below that you do have an Alpina specific front splitter with Alpina spelled out in white lettering in the front. Some people like this, some people don't, some people think it's chintzy. I love the Alpina script. I think it's one of the nameplates that you get with this car. If you're buying the Alpina, you want people to know you have the Alpina, so why not spell it out right in front of the car? I think it's a genius tactic, and I love it. Altogether, the front of the car is a very controversial point, which is something that you kind of want. You don't want people to always love the front of it. You want people to attract attention to it, and that's exactly what the BMW designers wanted with this X7, and it's exactly what it does. So in that aspect, BMW has achieved the goal they were going for, but that's generally up to the buyer to decide if they like it or not, because there is competition here, so they are trying to win over buyers. Now moving on to the side is whenever you really start to take characteristic of how large that this vehicle is. I said the same thing with the Mercedes GLS, and I'm saying the same thing with the X7. With German full-size SUVs, they sort of look smaller from the front, and then you just take them in at the side, and they look big on the side, and that is the same with the X7. However, the X7 to me looks a bit shrunken at the back. It looks like there should be more body, but there isn't. Something that the GLS sort of had a problem with, but fit it more than this X7 does. This X7, I think, really struggles with it. But it still looks good. It still has amazing body lines. You have creases under the door handles. You have amazing door handle pockets, body lines. You have an outtake by the wheel to get all the hot air out of those wheel wells. Speaking of those wheel wells, you do have 23-inch Alpina specific wheels. They are 20 spoke wheels, and they look amazing. Wrapping those wheels are Pirelli P0 tires. You have two 85/35 R23s at the front, and three 25/30 R23s at the back. Those are huge tires. Just to put that in perspective, the only other vehicle that uses 325 section tires is the Corvette. That is an astonishing feat, and I think it's something that really needs to be noted. Moving to the back of the XB7, you start to see the best angle of it, and I said, and I continue to say, that the rear of the car is the most important view of the car, and that is no different with this XB7. It is quite possibly the best angle of this car. You see full LED taillights with LED turn signals and LED brake lights, and you also get a nice chrome strip running through them. That's something that you'll note with Alpina. There is quite a bit of chrome on this car because it is not specifically a sports trim. It's supposed to be sports luxury. That's Alpina's name of the game, and they are the best at it. Nobody tops Alpina in sports luxury. Now, going down from that, you do get your Alpina badging, you do get BMW, you do get Alpina specific badging instead of the BMW badging, because this is an Alpina tuner car, not a BMW X7. Below that, you see a Alpina specific rear diffuser with Alpina specific exhaust that sound amazing. You can really hear that 4.4 liter S65 grumble. It is an amazing feat, and like I said, the rear of this XB7 is the best angle you will see on any X7 platform in the lineup. Now, like I usually say, what the outside of the car looks like means nothing if the inside of the car is not amazing, because of course the inside is where you'll be spending most of your time. And I can report that the inside of the new XB7 is a fantastic place to be. Though it may be a bit controversial, it is a very premium and very comfortable place to be. You will see that the XB7 comes standard with full merino leather seating, which is BMW's fancy talk for really nice leather. It is coated, you get it on the dash, you get it on your seats, you can even get it on your headliner. Now, speaking of your headliners, where you will see your full panoramic sunroof, and you even have a panoramic roof for the third row passengers. Now, the new XB7 comes equipped with many features, such as iDrive 8. Now, this is where it starts to get a bit dicey with me. I am not the biggest fan of iDrive 8. I think iDrive 7 was really the pinnacle of iDrive, because you got many of the features that you wanted in the infotainment system, but you also had physical controls for all those same features. That is gone with iDrive 8, and I'm specifically talking about physical climate controls. They are gone. They are integrated into the screen. Some brands can do this fine, some brands cannot, and I'm sorry to say that BMW is one of those that cannot, because they do not have a static climate control menu. You have to go into a specific menu to use those climate controls. They have eliminated the physical climate controls that were there for the first generation of X7 with iDrive. Now, that being said, other than them eliminating those controls, the iDrive 8 system is a very intuitive system. It is one of the best infotainment systems on the market at any price point. It's used in BMWs, it's used in Rolls Royces, so that should really test how great this system is. It is a touchscreen display, or you can use the crystal rotary dial that is optional, so you do not have to touch the screen while you're driving. You don't have to fingerprint it, and you don't have to take your eyes off the road for that much time. That being said, your iDrive 8 screen is one continuous display that also doubles as your gauge cluster. Now, you do get a configurable gauge cluster. I don't like it as much as I like the last generation. I think it looks a bit cheap how they connected the two. Mercedes is one of the only companies who have successfully combined two screens into one to make it look good. I prefer the last generation of X7's gauge cluster. But that being said, it is very clear. You can customize it. You can have different modes. You have your different drive modes that will configure your gauge cluster. It's a very good screen. Above that, you have a full color heads-up display that changes with your different drive modes, with your different configurations. You can put speed limits, you can put all sorts of different things in this heads-up display. It is a very good heads-up display. Kudos to BMW for that one. Now you look down and yet another gripe. Crystal capacitive touch buttons. Now it seems like a really cool idea. You have crystal buttons. That's something really cool, but they're capacitive touch. Now Porsche has done this for years, and they have been notorious for it, and BMW is the same way. They are very, very picky onto which way you can touch them. Sometimes you'll press them, sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't. It is very iffy, and I think if you're paying this much for a full-size luxury sport SUV, it ought to work every single time. But that's a minor gripe. It looks amazing. I just wish they worked more. You do have something unique to the Alpina models. On most BMW models, you get paddle shifters behind your wheel. But that is not such with the Alpina. Alpina believes in shift buttons. So they place shift buttons behind the steering wheel, so that way you can manually shift gears. I don't really like that. I don't see the purpose of that. I don't see why they needed to be quirky and add that. But nonetheless, it is a Alpina specific feature that you will find on all Alpina models. You do also, with the XB7, get standard the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. It is a 20 speaker sound system and is one of the best sound systems you will hear on the market. Now, altogether, I believe that there are more features that I could even cover in this review, such as the heated and ventilated seats that are for the first and second rows. The first row gets massaging seats, and the third row is even heated, and they all get their own climate controls, which frustrates me because the second row and third row get physical climate controls, but you can't do that in the front. That's frustrating. Altogether, I think the interior on the XB7 is very premium, and it's very up to par with all of the competitors. And if you were choosing it over some others, I think there are some other options that do it better than this, such as the GLS, but nonetheless, it is a very premium place to be. Now, like I had mentioned before, the XB7 is quite a special vehicle. It's not often that we get special edition vehicles from BMW, but when we get them from a private tuner, they are extra special, and that is no different with the XB7. It is a one of a kind vehicle that you will never get the like to see again, and that makes it a very good competitor in the lineup that it offers. And I would like to bring up some of that competition. The XB7 competes directly with the likes of, say, the GLS AMG 63 or the, say, Range Rover SV Autobiography. Now, it has a big edge over all of those in the fact that it has a higher top speed of all of those, which you could also compare with the Durango Hellcat, but the Durango Hellcat is not a luxury vehicle. Though it has some luxury appointments, it is not on par with the rest of these. Now the GLS is it is a cheaper vehicle. However, it does suffer some because you don't get as many luxury appointments that you do with this. The XB7 really sets itself apart as being the luxury sport competitor. With the AMG, it is somewhat luxurious, but it's mostly meant to be performance oriented. So in that case, you get a little more with the XB7. Now with the Range Rover, it's not necessarily that much of a performance thing. Now, like I said, the XB7 has 630 horsepower. Now, the Range Rover uses the non-M version of the BMW motor, the 4.4 liter, and it's making 523 horsepower. So it's down on power to the XB7. So I don't think it's necessarily the competitor either because it's not a dedicated performance model. It's just happens to have a little bit more power than your standard Range Rover. Now, I think where this thing goes toe to toe is with the Cadillac Escalade V. Now, that's kind of saying something because the Americans are heading toe to toe with the Germans in automotive sports luxury vehicles. Now, if you look at the numbers, the Escalade V starts at about $150,000, which is about on par with the XB7. You're starting to get a really big competition. The Cadillac has 682 horsepower, but it weighs as much as a house. You have the XB7 with 630 horsepower. Now, you do get a 4.4 second 0 to 60 with the Cadillac Escalade V. You get a 3.9 second in the XB7, but it is to say that the XB7 is a full-size crossover. The Escalade V is a body-on-frame SUV, so you're able to tow more with the Cadillac Escalade V if that's something you're interested in doing. I don't think many people who cross-shop the two plan on towing much, but it is available if you buy the Escalade. I think that the ride quality, the more sophistication, is something that you'll get from the XB7 that you can't necessarily get from the Escalade. It's just not capable of giving it. The XB7 just feels like a more premium vehicle, and that's because it is. It has better materials, it has better ride, and that's something you just get with the Germans that you do not get with the Americans. And that's something you have to take in consideration whenever you're cross-shopping the two vehicles. So I think the XB7 in its current form, if you buy the XB7, is the best vehicle in its category. I don't think it's necessarily the best looking. I don't think it has the best tech, but whenever you're driving a car, you totally forget that. When you look at the numbers, it says stuff, but whenever you're driving it, it immerses you, and it gives you a totally different feeling. You forget about the looks, you forget about the tech, and you just focus on how good that car is. Now, I did mention that it is a full-size crossover with a 4.4 liter twin-turbo V8, and that means that fuel economy might suffer. But it's not as bad as you might think it is for a twin-turbo full-size SUV. You can expect to see 15 miles per gallon in the city. You can 21 on the highway with a 17 mile per gallon combined rating. So for a big V8 SUV, I don't think that's really that bad. And overall, I think if you put all the competitors together and you look at the numbers that they give you, you look at the quality, you get the ride quality, all the fuel economy numbers, which if you're looking for that, I don't know why you're even shopping in this section. I think you probably should spend your money elsewhere go buy a Prius. But now I should mention, you're probably thinking, this is starting to sound like a really good offering, this XB7. It's one of a kind, it's a BMW tuner, it goes toe-to-toe with the Escalade V. How much does this car cost? Now that's where this car suffers. Because this car starts at $175,000. That is a big chunk of change. But you also think that the Escalade V that it goes toe-to-toe with starts at $150,000. But you will never be able to find one at $150,000 because dealer markups are absolutely insane on them. So really, if you're able to find an XB7 and you're able to find an Escalade V, I don't think you're going to see much of a price difference between them. It's just going to be personal preference. And I'm telling you right now, every single time I would choose that XB7 over that Escalade. Just because of how much more premium, and especially if you're spending the same amount of money, why not just go with the more premium offering? Now that leads me to my question for you guys. Do you think that the XB7 is better than the Cadillac Escalade V? My name's Noah Fitzgerald. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, enjoy the drive, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.